Godanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today we're reading from Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 and text number 30. So first going to recite the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit is on the TV screen, and then we'll read the translation and the purport. Om Jnanatirmayandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakchurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutaye Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Prasyatya Desatarne. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'd also like to seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees and to those who may be listening online. Vancha kalpa trubhischa kripa sindhu bhevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're now going to read from the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit is on the television screen. If you like, you can repeat after me. Prahladaschasmi daicyanam. Prahladaschasmi daicyanam. Kala kalyatam aham. Kala kalyatam aham. Mriganam cha mrigendroham. Mriganam cha mrigendroham. Venateyascha paschinam. Venateyascha pakshinam. Prahladaschasmi daicyanam. Kala kalyatam aham. Mriganam cha mrigendroham. Venateyascha pakshinam. Prahladaschasmi daicyanam. Kala kalyatam aham mriganam cha migendroham venateyascha pakchinam praladascha daijanam kala kalyatam aham mriganam cha migendroham venateyascha pakchinam. If anyone would like to try the recitation, if you'd like to. Yeah. Would like to try? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, would like to give it? Yeah, yeah. Praladas chas, oh yeah. I can. Praladas chas midaijanam. Kala kalyatam aham. Mriganam cha migendroham. Venateyascha pakchinam. And the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. And purport. Diti and Aditi are two sisters. The sons of Aditi are called Adityas. The sons of Diti are called Daityas. All the Adityas are devotees of the Lord, and all the Daityas are atheistic. Although Prahlad was born in the family of the Daityas, he was a great devotee from his childhood. Because of his devotional service and godly nature, he is considered to be a representative of Krishna. There are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things in the material universe, and so represents Krishna. Of the many animals, the lion is the most powerful and ferocious, and of the million varieties of birds, Garuda, the bearer of Lord Vishnu, is the greatest. So, this is in chapter 10, the opulence of the Absolute. In this chapter, Krishna is actually, he's speaking about his different opulences. And in this particular passage, he is actually speaking in terms of this material manifestation. Everything that is actually, opulent or good is actually from a quality of Krishna. So Krishna is the best of everything. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that it's him who is the ability in man. So everything in this universe, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya pravabho matam sarvam pravartyate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. That says all material and spiritual worlds emanate from me. I am the source of everything, and those who know this worship me with all their hearts. So everything that is actually, everything that is splendorous, everything in existence naturally emanates from Krishna. But those things which are good, we take to be a quality of Krishna. And similarly, when we actually introspect in our own selves, we take the bad qualities to be our own doing. And then we take the good qualities. Everything good is by the mercy of Krishna. So Krishna is the ability in man. And this is what we have to accept, is that actually in our own selves, all our shortcomings and faults, they all belong to us in one sense. It's because it's us who've actually been in the darkness in that sense. We have, due to our own free will, we have been away from Krishna, and everything only has value in relation to Krishna. It's said that one is considered to have no good qualities unless they're a devotee. In that sense, one only is actually valuable when they're actually devoted to Krishna. And we can see this in the material world because we have many people who are very expert, but ultimately, what good are they doing unless it is actually ultimately to please the Lord? Because when we do activities which are not to reveal scriptures, which are born of our own speculation, mental speculation, then naturally they're not going to actually cause good in the world. And we can see this as well, especially with technology as well, that even though we have become so technologically advanced, but technology itself is not a bad thing, but the ultimate problem is that technology is not actually being used in the service of Krishna. So that's where the actual problems begin, is that naturally by the laws of this material world, Krishna says everything that actually emanates from him is perfectly complete and whole. So this material universe is perfectly complete and whole. But and in terms of ourselves, it's complete and whole. But of course, we can see this material world is imperfect, and we are imperfect. So this material world is perfectly imperfect, and so that's what we can see, that to actually make things how they should be, we can never expect utopia in this material world. But Srila Prabhupada says that if everyone actually engages in the Lord's service, if there's that's what we have to strive for, is a whole cultural shift, which is very easily done, is just to actually internally, whatever we do for Krishna. It's not that we actually have to, right now we don't have to actually change the whole world in such a way. We just have to change the goal. And the goal is not our own enjoyment, sense gratification, but the goal is to please Krishna. And if we actually have that aspiration from the beginning, then everything will become perfect. And that's when we'll see an actual transformation in the world. Srila Prabhupada often gives the analogy that to actually do devotional service is like watering the root of a tree. And when we water this root of the tree, naturally the branches and the leaves get nourished. So likewise in society, in every aspect of society, everything will become nourished. We can see that in the world there's so much turbulence. If not, it's mentioned in the scriptures that there's 3 different ways that we receive karmic reactions that we suffer in this material world. And these are Adi Atmika, Adi Devika, and Adi Bodhika. So Adi Atmika and Adi Atmika is actually the most common source of our own suffering actually. So, and this is to do with our own self, like the sufferings of the mind and the body and so on. So we know that the mind is ultimately the greatest obstacle in anything, because in this material world, through the senses and the mind, there's so many different distractions, allurements, and it presents us, it presents our intelligence with this idea of ultimately enjoyment. So the intelligence actually has to decipher what is good and what is bad. So, and this actually strength and this clarity can only actually be achieved by the actual shelter of devotees and in devotional service. So we have, what we take shelter of is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. The Guru is the spiritual master. The Sadhu is one in Krishna consciousness, or one who has Krishna in their heart. And then the Shastra is the scripture. So if we have these three in mind at all times, then we'll be safe, and we can actually have that knowledge to decipher between what is productive and unproductive in terms of spiritual growth. And then there's adibodhika. So these are the sufferings from other living beings, like beasts, animals, and other living entities. And then we have adidevika. So adidevika is actually sufferings to the demigods. And the demigods, they're the ones who actually orchestrate and control the material nature. And the more we actually become impersonal, less reverential, and the more that we actually the word, dehumanize things, or we take things, we don't see the actual the person behind things. For example, this material world is also known as Mother Bhumi or Bhakti Devi, and described that this material world is actually a person. In the Vedic scriptures, it's with Lord Varaha, it's described that when the planet Earth was actually had fallen to the bottom of the universe, and at that time when there was some calamity in the world, in the universe, the whole world was shivering and crying. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Laxman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki. So the whole world was actually shivering and crying. And we also have the actual example as well of when Kali and Maharaj Parikshit, he actually saw that Mother Earth in the form of a cow was being harassed and crying as well. So we can see that actually from the actual authority of the Vedic scriptures that there is actually personality behind things. And ultimately, as we mentioned earlier, what makes these personalities valuable is that we have to see them in relation to Krishna. And ultimately, these personalities, such as Mother Earth, and the demigods, as is mentioned, there's even the Daityas and so on, but the demigods are actually devotees of Krishna, and in that sense they're dear to Krishna. It's also mentioned about Prahlad Maharaj, who is a devotee of Krishna. When we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I believe it's the 7th canto, it speaks about Prahlad Maharaj. And at the beginning of that there's a question which is asked about does the Lord appear to be impartial, or partial, that actually he favors his devotees over everyone else, that he's not fair to everyone. And this is an interesting question, that is the Lord fair to everyone? And then the answer is given that like the rays of the sun, the Lord's is like that, like the sunshine, which is equal to everyone. It just shines. But we have to actually be in the sunshine and not be in the shadows. So in this sense, the ones who are actually taking shelter of Krishna, naturally they will receive Krishna's mercy or Krishna's favor. So it's this is very, even it's very evident, even in the material world, that sometimes it can be more difficult to see, but sometimes it can be more evident in terms of those who are criminals and so on, that we can see it never ends well. There's never a happy ending in that sense, that there's always, the saying is, live by the sword and die by the sword. So in terms of, we can see ultimately it mentions about time. In terms of time, naturally it's the subduer of everything. And in terms of our good and bad fruits and so on, in time, naturally what we do now, we will reap either the good or bad consequences. But the Bhagavad Gita speaks about, in terms of karma is not just, there is a certain type of karma which is doing good activities, and then there is bad activities. And so these are good and bad results. But then when we take to actual devotional service, karma changes. It's not just good and bad activities. So then karma is what actually will please Krishna. What is Krishna asking of me in this sense? And this is what we have to have in mind. And ultimately then, in the life of a devotee, actually what happens in the life of the devotee is beyond Adibodhika, Adidevika and Adiadimika. In the life of a devotee, everything is orchestrated and specifically tailored for that specific devotee, because even in this material world, the material nature is ultimately trying to rectify people through good and bad reactions. Naturally, we learn lessons. Like the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. So that's the analogy of the material nature. But for a devotee, we don't actually receive specifically good and bad actions or reactions. We receive, whether it's externally good or bad, but ultimately it's to help us to think of Krishna. Like Queen Kunti, Queen Kunti is the auntie of Krishna, if I'm correct, the auntie, and the mother of the Pandavas. And we know that in her prayers, she was actually welcoming calamities, because she realized in those moments she had to really depend on Krishna, and Krishna had to actually save them. Krishna was the one who always bailed them out in those times. we have the example of Draupadi. Draupadi, it was the game of dice, and she was very unfairly being disrobed, and actually when there is nothing else that could be done, she had to just actually just raise her arms and say Govinda, Govinda in surrender. And in that circumstance, Krishna provided unlimited sari. So in that sense, we can see that in the life of a devotee, it may seem beyond all logic from our material reason. We have, if one was to listen to their mundane mind in that circumstance, I'm sure they wouldn't let go. But in terms of actually dependence on Krishna and knowing that everything is orchestrated by Krishna, so Krishna actually tests his devotees, and through the material nature, naturally to our own mind, the influences of the material world, other living entities, naturally will receive tests in life. And ultimately, the best thing is to actually always remember Krishna. But it's easier said than done. So, in that sense, how do we actually remember Krishna always? It said that is the actual golden rule. Among all the different rules and regulations, there is one rule which it's the supreme rule amongst everything. And this is mentioned in the Vedic scriptures also, in the Puranas, that always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So, that being said, still the rules are very important for us as well, that only by the actual by the actual rules will we actually be able to actually progress and still to keep safe. So it's mentioned that there's Vedi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti. So Vedi sadhana bhakti is the rules and regulations, it's sadhana. So Vedi sadhana bhakti is actually chanting the 16 rounds, the 4 regulative principles, and so on like that, keeping the association of the devotees and honoring Krishna Prasad. And naturally this is our force field from Maya, that this is what will keep us safe. This is like our vaccine. And then we hope to actually aspire for what is called spontaneous devotional service. So it's like spontaneous devotional service that's when we get to a point where we're steady and we don't need to actually, it's just spontaneous, that naturally our default mode is service. So that's what we all have to aspire for. We don't, for example, if it's morning program, the alarm goes off, then we have the option snooze or to actually get up. And then if it's more, when one is actually spontaneous, naturally they'll be happy to actually, they're enthusiastic and there's no question in that sense. So this is what we all have to actually try to strive for. And of course, the association of the devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, he was naturally spontaneous. That's been said, he had a natural attraction to Krishna and devotional service. And naturally, even in the womb of his mother, he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam being spoken, or he heard transcendental knowledge from Narada. And his mother wasn't so devoted that she forgot the knowledge, but due to Prahlad, naturally from birth, he was a devotee. And that continued. And naturally his father, Hiranyakashipu, he was, I believe he was the personification of pride. And he was actually envious of Lord Vishnu. So when Prahlad spoke about Lord Vishnu, naturally Hiranyakashipu was upset, which was, even the so-called brahmanas and their teachings that his teachers were teaching Prahlad about business and so on, but they were naturally envious. And Prahlad's association, he was like a touchstone that even towards his school friends, they were all just naturally inclined to hear from Prahlad, because Prahlad naturally had that enthusiasm and the conviction. And I said, like, Prahlad was like fire, and we have to become like fire. So when you put a steel rod into the fire, it naturally takes on the qualities of the fire and becomes like fire. So this is what we have to glow like a steel rod in the fire. And then naturally Prahlad Maharaj's friends, due to his association, he was able to actually dispel their ignorance as well. So that goes to show that the association of the devotees. And the first thing actually in receiving knowledge is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The first thing we have to have is humility. There's a full list. It's in chapter 13, is it? Chapter 13, about actual knowledge. And but humility is very important. And Srila Prabhupada describes what actually is humility. So real humility is to know what is our constitutional position, as Srila Prabhupada describes. So what is our actual relationship with His Supreme Lord? So this is actually real humility. If we actually know what is our relationship with the Lord, and then to act accordingly, then that's humility. Because we have to learn that ultimately it's the Lord who is the real enjoyer. It said, Bogasarya prasaktanam teya pardishetasam vyavyasayatmika buddhi samadona vidiyate. That we have to know that the Lord is actually, He's the goal of all sacrifices, austerities, the Lord of all the planets and the demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all the living entities. One who knows this can attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. So, if we actually know our relationship with the Lord, that's how we can actually have His shelter. And we have to know that we're not the actual enjoyers. Life is ultimately meant to please Krishna. I'd like to ask if there's any questions. Yes, thank you, Lavani Krishabhu.
You were speaking about how Krishna helps everyone.
Yes, yeah.
I was also thinking that people who have surrendered to Krishna, actually Krishna gives them the knowledge by which they can come to Him.
Yes, yeah.
There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita that says this.
Yes, 10:10.
So I was just thinking about the more
Yes.
He's more inclined towards his devotees because actually he loves his devotees more than himself.
Yes.
So yeah, that's one thing I came to learn also. I'm supposed to share.
No, thank you, Boo. I'll just repeat that yeah, ultimately, yeah, that when we take shelter of Krishna, that yeah, when we become dear to Krishna, naturally, Krishna reciprocates because he does actually love his devotees, and yeah, that's a very important point. That ultimately, it's said that Krishna is the supreme, and he's the uh, he's a supreme controller, the Purusha, and it was mentioned even in this morning's class the word Prakriti, and naturally we're subservient to Krishna, and but in the life of when we actually achieve pure devotional service, that's why it's so difficult to achieve, to become completely free from material entanglement. At that point, then one becomes one purchases Krishna. So that's why Krishna is very reluctant to bestow pure devotional service unless one truly deserves it. And at that point, Krishna is within the heart of the devotee, and the devotee is within the heart of Krishna. The devotee is thinking of Krishna, and Krishna is thinking of the devotee. And at that point, Krishna becomes controlled by the devotee and subservient to the desires of the devotee. So, in that point, we can see the example of this is Bhishma. It was Bhishma who he made Krishna break his vow because Bhishma he had this desire to fight with Krishna, and Krishna said he wouldn't fight. But due to the actual desire of the pure devotee, Krishna broke his vow, and that goes to show that how dear the devotees are to Krishna ultimately. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Rajbu. Yes, thank you.
Is how is that? I've noticed that the Krishna devotees go through more material suffering compared to other demigods devotees.
Oh yes, yes. How come Krishna's devotees go through more suffering than other demigods? So, well, that's important to understand that. If I'm correct, the other demigods. You're talking about the heavenly planets, and so they're in like Indra, and all these. They're in heavenly abodes. So naturally, in those abodes, they don't face so much. It's naturally material enjoyment. It's not like the same good and bad reactions. It's said that those who go to the heavenly planets, they're just kind of like animals in this world. They simply receive the reactions of their karma. They just go through their karma. They don't think independently so much, and that's like the demigods. They're simply just enjoying until their karmic credits run out, and then they return to this material world. And then this material world is a place of more, it's a place of suffering more so. But that being said, in the heavenly planets, there's still old age, disease, and death. Even though they remain healthy throughout their life, ultimately at the end of their life, they have to perish. And in this material world, it's actually a place whereby it's said that actually in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, all the demigods are queuing up to take birth on the earth, to partake in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, because Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement there's so much mercy available which is not available so easily in previous ages, and through Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Through the chanting of the holy name, then we can actually can become free ultimately from all bondage, even to heavenly enjoyment. So we can finally leave the material world behind, the hellish regions, the material world, the heavenly planets, and then for once and for all that we can go back home to the spiritual world. So Srila Prabhupada said, if one is serious enough, they can go back home in this life. So ultimately, if we take Krishna consciousness seriously, we can end once and for all the cycle of repeated birth and death. Yeah. Thank you, Harsha. Thank you. Bhagavad Gita ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are we going to start now? Any minutes? Or can we come forward? Shri Radha Gokulanand ki, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Gauranitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Ki bajaya jaya Gaura Chandra, Arati Gashobha. Arati Gashobha.
चन्द्रजिनी वदन उज्ज्वला कोटि चन्द्रजिनी वदन उज्ज्वला कृष्ण पृष्ठाय